I don't know why I'm mirrored. Who knows why? Okay. We are live, and we have another box to open. Big surprise. If anyone shows up, please let me know if we have kind of funny looking color. I'm using StreamYard through a slightly different a browser this time because it was saying that the browser was giving an issue. So I switched browsers, and hopefully that takes care of things. So how's everyone's weekend doing today? Here in the US of A, we celebrated our Independence Day. So we had our 4th of July celebration. Lots of fireworks, lots of food, the usual. And let's see how this bad boy is wrapped up. That's quite the packing. I think I am grabbing the wrong end. I think I'm grabbing the pointy end of the sword. Let's see if I can do this without getting hurt. Okay. All right. The sword is coming out nicely. And we'll unwrap it all on camera to be seen here. And look at how lovely this is. So this is the first time I've been able to look at some of the handiwork from Andy Sunda, or Sunda. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it. But this is a really pretty scabbard from Andy. He said that this is not his most expensive scabbard, so we shouldn't judge the maximum ability that Andy has based on this particular example. But as this is the very first one of his I've seen, I'm still looking at it and still very impressed. So this particular one is adorned by fleur-de-lis. So we have fleur-de-lis that have been stamped in here underneath the belt. It has a belt system that's been beautifully woven into it all around it. The stitching on the back is really quite nice and tight. So we have stitching that runs all the way down the length of the back and is really kind of low and flush. I'm not even sure how he did the seam in some of this. Having done that type of stitching work on scabbards before, that's pretty clean work. Scabbard feels really good. Got a little bit of gold paint going on in order to make the central fleur-de-lis for the throat of the sword. And then let's see what type of, we have these type of belt clasps at the end to fit it in order to allow it to be worn. Really cool, very pretty. Everything feels good. The leather is nice, smells good. So I really appreciate the work here done by Andy and the system of the leather straps in order to hold it in position. You can see that it's laced up and it crosses in between the 2-point suspension. So this, if I were to unwrap it entirely, which I may go ahead and do. Do I want to do that? I guess we can do it just for the sake of everyone to see. It's going to be my efforts to go ahead and put it back up. So I don't do a lot of sword wearing, and I don't. Sometimes I overlook scabbards. It depends on what sword we're looking at. But I appreciate a well-made suspension system. There we go. So you can see how it's connected at the 2 points on the scabbard like this. Should I go ahead and model it for us? Will I know how to actually put it on? Let's see if we can do it. Ta-da! And so this would usually sit rather low on the waist, reasonably low on the waist. So I'll use my natural waist, roughly. Hopefully it's not too wide. Can create some extra loops on here. Gonna make a mess of it here, but we'll just do it for now. I don't have all the extra things. So these can be worn reasonably slung low like that. You can see the belting system, and that keeps the hilt of the sword pointed right where you want it. So it's again held in this direction and then continues the belt going across here, and then the other one comes across the back of the hips there, so it's not at risk of falling. It keeps the sword in a good position. You can adjust it up, you can adjust it down as need be, and it's just great to be able to grab. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Again, I don't actually do a lot of reenactment or cosplay or dressing up most of the time, so I don't have the opportunity to do wearing of swords for the most part. But it's an area that I probably need to spend a little bit more time studying, is studying how the scabbards and the belting systems for the various types of swords work. Because even in a given period, so even if we're studying just, let's say, arming swords from, in this case, we're looking at like the 13th going into the 14th century, there are going to be different ways that you can do your belting system. There's going to be a couple different suspension methods that you're able to do. So what sword is this? This is actually a sister sword from one of my own swords. So this is an Albion, in case anyone hasn't figured it out. And this is the, if I'm remembering it correctly, this is the Albion Chevalier. And if I pull it out, let's see. Ooh, it is in there nice and snug. Let's see. Okay, it comes right out. Shring. Oh, what a pretty sword this is. And so this is a really special type of blade. It's based on a blade that's in the Wallace collection. And it is the companion sword. Hang on, let me just close my knife. I've got too many open blades here. I'll put this sword down, close up the little blade so I don't cut anyone. And it is the companion sword of this one that I own, which is much more closely related to the original in the Wallace Museum. So this is the Oakshot. If I hold them together, you can see that they do indeed basically share the same design. So what type of blades are these? These are probably described as type 10A blades. So Oakshot type 10A blades. But unlike the standard type 10A blade that is essentially lenticular in cross-section, that then has a fuller put into it, the sides of this blade are hollow ground. So going from the peak of the ridge at the fuller, rather than curving out, reinforcing the edge, kind of like an axe-like grind, this one swoops out, making the section going to the edge quite thin, making it really, really good at cutting, but making the blades more flexible. And then the difference that Peter Johnson has done in designing this one, or in how it's executed by Albion, is the inner fuller is ground round, whereas I believe that the original is ground flat. So the originals are basically flat-bottomed like a channel, and on these they're kind of shallow ground, like if you put your thumbnail and just dragged it all the way down instead of just going straight down like someone punched it, like a canal. So they're very close to the original in the Wallace collection, but not quite exactly the same. Between the two of them, you can see that the Oakshot is perhaps a little bit more of a standard, typical design on the hilt, and then the Chevalier is much fancier, and this is more like what you'd see in some of the manuscripts. We have a faceted cross section. We have a kind of diamond cross section here for the cross itself that transitions into a more standard it goes from a tetrahedral design in one plane, and then it transitions into a 45 degrees rotated tetrahedron for cross section for the central portion. So it's still four-sided, but switched. The grip has this cross hatched wrap here done in leather over flat leather. We have a few of these that survive. We have some surviving examples of grips that have this overlaid wrap. In this case, the points are then covered with little metal studs. And in the hand, it feels comfortable. Like a lot of people would see that as like, oh, I don't want to have little acupuncture or whatever in the middle of your hand. And a lot of times, remember, in many cases, someone would be wearing gloves anyway. So if you wanted even less slipperiness in your sword, having stuff like that might help to add more traction or more tactile sensation inside of it. But you can see here, I'll just turn it around a little bit. So you have lots of good dimension this way. And then if I turn it, you have good dimension this way too. But in grabbing it and holding it in the hand, it feels very comfortable. It obviously gives me a lot of purchase, so I don't have to worry about it slipping out of the hand. It just locks it right there in the hand, so it's not ever going to get away from me. If I then took it and banged it on something really, really hard, it's possible that one of these is going to dig in to an area where I don't have a lot of fat going on, and it's going to catch one of my bones. But right now, just holding it, it naturally just kind of like these like 1, 2, 3, these little 3 dots here kind of just naturally slot in between my fingers, and it doesn't catch anything. So it just kind of naturally makes a position for my finger to my hands to lock into the grip in a very natural sort of way. The same thing's true on the other side. My thumb kind of naturally slots into this top section here, and it just feels very good in the hand on the whole. So we have a couple comments. Strigoli says he loves the look of it. It's a beautiful sword. Can't deny that. Christopher Johnstone, hello from Scotland. Hello back from across the pond. Hope everyone's doing well over there. And then, of course, on the very bottom, we have not too many Albions have yellow metal, but this one has a pommel done in brass. And you can just barely see the steel peen that's been polished into it there. And again, this kind of floral design is something that we definitely see in manuscripts. Off the top of my head, I can't think. No, we do definitely have like some late 12th century going into the 13th century surviving bronze and brass pommels that have this type of like floral design. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember which oakshot pommel form that is. If I just look up my oakshots real fast, I'm sure he covers it. Oakshot pommel types. Then we would see that we have types such as the Q. So the Q type pommels are multi-lobate, and that's probably what I'm thinking of. Let me see if I can share my screen. Can I share my screen? Screen share. No, I can't do it easily. I'm using a different browser, and everything is not working quite well today. Kyle says, I almost bought that Chevalier from Andy. It's a great package. Ended up buying a Regent instead with a red grip from another member. Regent's pretty good. So yeah, Andy sent this over to me, and this is the first time I've been able to see his handiwork with the Scabbard. So I'm going to put the Chevalier down for a second, and anyone who came on late, this is the first time I've been able to look at Andy's handiwork with the Scabbard. So for comparison, if you are not smart enough to purchase from Andy and you try and make your own Scabbard, this is what happens. So this is my own Scabbard that I made for my Landsknecht Emporium Messer, and it is functional, but it is not pretty. It requires a lot more beautification, It took a lot of time, which is why I haven't gone ahead and continued to perfect my craft. By contrast, when you have someone who knows what they're doing, this is what you can get. So you can see that he's able to get much thinner walls and much tighter seams. Even the way that he's able to get the bridging done here, we have really thin and very even strips of leather that he's able to do for the integration of the belt loops here, cutting in all of these slots in order to make sure that the belt suspension stays in place. The way that he's been able to put in these patterns and punch all of these fleur-de-lis. I wish I had more light going on. Unfortunately, I don't have my light coming up. The consistency of the stain, I really like the color on this one. This is my friend Christian's sword, but maybe I can convince him that he doesn't want the scabbard. In fact, that would be something really interesting to see. So just out of curiosity, since the oak shot and the chevalier share blades, what happens if I stick the oak shot in the scabbard? Let's find out. It's a little snug. I'm not going to risk damaging Andy's work, so I'm going to take my oak shot out. I'll put the chevalier right back in, and we'll see what happens. I'll put this back in. And again, you can see how custom made it is for the individual sword, because it slots right in to the chevalier fine. The sword will not release from it by gravity, but just with a little tug, it comes right out. It seems to be felt lined, as would have been common back in the day. Again, Albion, when you're purchasing an Albion, you're waiting almost 2 years for the Albion to be made, but it will not come with a scabbard. So you have to go to a maker like Todd, or like Andy Sunda, or like Brian from DBK, in order to get a scabbard made. And sometimes the scabbards are going to be very expensive. The price of the sword again. Andy is very fast. I don't know how he works as quickly as he does. And if he's saying that this is some of his quicker work, and so not necessarily as detailed or as pricey as he can execute, and I've seen him execute some really detailed scabbards, then if you're interested in a scabbard, I would definitely darken his doorstep and give him a holler for whatever your sword project is. Send your sword over to him. He's going to make something that is that's going to fit your sword like a glove, and is going to look really professional, especially if it's medieval style, since that seems to be his field of specialty. Let's see what else we have going on here. Andy's scabbard work is fantastic. Have one on order for him, yet to be finished. Oh, tell me how long his rapier commission has been going for you. I'm really curious about that. Made a scabbard for my Doge. It was great work. Blue with tan belts. That sounds beautiful. I have to post a picture of that one. I'll love to see that, Kyle. I'm pretty sure I've seen that one on Facebook. Yeah. So that I'll have to keep my eyes open for more of Andy's work. He is very good about posting both on Facebook and even on Reddit now. I spend way too much time on the swords Reddit. You guys can obviously see me commenting on there on the subreddit for swords when I have too much time going on. So if you ever want to get my attention outside of YouTube or on the sword Discord related to subreddit, that's a good place to find me. So yeah, this is really a really pretty sword that is destined for Sword of Damocles in the end. So it's visiting my sword daycare for a little while, as many swords do. But I'm really happy to be able to see this scabbard in particular, because it's a really pretty scabbard, and it's very neat to be able to compare these two swords. So in hand, they obviously share a lot of dynamic properties since their blades are so similar, but the difference in the hilt and the difference in the pommel is going to change their handling very slightly. So I'm going to have to run the dynamics of the Chevalier and see exactly how they differ. If you guys will humor me for 1 second, I'm just going to start my scale up. Where's my scale? Did I move it? It's over here. Let's see what they weigh. All right. So if I put get it to grams. All right. So the Chev is coming in at 1,040 grams. And the Oakshot, I believe, let's see if I remember. I think it's slightly heavier. Yep, it's 1,150 grams. So this comes in very slightly heavier than this. So some combination between the grip construction and probably the pommel, maybe the way that the pommel is fluted. It's possible that it's just the difference in metal, but you can see that the floral design is very, very slightly taller, but between it being cut out that way and between the way that it's chamfered out, we seem to have lost about 110 grams between this sword and that sword. And assuming that most of that is not different in the blade, it's going to change how they handle a little bit. So I'll have to run my usual graphs and see, do you want a blade that concentrates more of the weight back in the hand and puts less of it out in the blade? Or do you want a blade that has less of a counterbalance here, changes the polar moment of the sword, and has it a little bit further out? If I stand up real fast, let's see. All right, that's one waggle. Yeah, so this one does have a lower rotational inertia at the tip, so it's able to redirect quicker than the Chevalier. So the Chevalier will have more blade authority and hit harder, but it will not be able to redirect as quickly. Just between really small differences. So this is nerding out a little bit because we have two swords that are so close to each other in the grand scheme of things compared to something like a Messer or a Cutlass or a Saber. They're arming swords, and they're very similar arming swords, and they're going to handle really close to one another. At the end of the day, if I picked one up or if I picked the other up, I could probably do both the same thing. But at the same point, this shows what you can get just by fine-tuning a little bit, by putting one pommel on or putting the other pommel on. By just adjusting a little bit, you can change the handling of the sword. So depending on what your needs, depending on what you want, depending on what you like, you can just make very small adjustments, and you can change how the sword behaves. The sword, I keep on using the quote from Peter Johnson, but it bears it continually is proven correct. Like a well-made sword has no extra meat on it. It is as well designed as, the body of a race car or an airplane wing. Like, all parts are there for a purpose, and if you try to add something on that doesn't belong there, it's going to throw its performance off. So yeah, you just take one pommel off and you put another pommel on, and it will behave differently. Let's see what else we've got going on over here. The rapier's from A&A, just waiting for it to be done. I gotcha. All right, well, hopefully A&A is able to get that done for you soon. Love that Albion offers the same blades on different configurations. Yeah, it's true. And that is kind of cool. So another, like many budget Chinese makers, we're used to seeing things where you build your own sword and you have your one standard blade. Sometimes you can make modifications to it, and then you assemble the hilt yourself, because that's the way, for instance, in Japanese culture, you can swap out your furniture really easily. And while something like Albion doesn't do that, to a degree, you have that ability just because it's true. They share blades between different models of swords. So you get to experience, well, if I didn't want to have the sword on that type of hilt, what if I had it on this type of hilt? There is some of that flexibility going on there. And of course, they let you customize color and stain and things like that. So there's still more variety than it might appear on first glance. And certainly more than you get, for instance, from, I don't mean to pick on them, but for instance, Windlass, like there's going to just be the one model of sword, and that's pretty much all that you get with that sword, unfortunately. So, but maybe more makers will do that going forward. Maybe in the future we'll see more flexibility with components, and you'll see the blades in different configurations, and give us that option, that ability to explore a little bit how things were done, as long as it's done with intention and purpose and with thoughtfulness as to how the sword blades are used. I'm a fan of that, so that'll give all of us more opportunities to experience different types of sword. All right, so we'll start winding things down. I'll put my scale away. And we'll take one more look at the whole configuration that Andy was so kind to send us. So, for a reminder, this is the Oakshot from Albion that stays here permanently, which is, again, a beautiful sword. And we don't know exactly why it was made with such an unusual cross-section. Maybe someone just asked for something to stand out, but it's really neat and really cool, and it cuts wickedly. And here is the Chevalier, which shares its blade, which is based off of, I'd say, medieval artwork more than a specific archaeological find, although I'm ready to be proven wrong once we dig up a sword that looks just like this. And it has been paired beautifully with this lovely scabbard by Andy Sunda. So thank you so much, Andy, for shipping this in such good condition. It came over in wonderful shape, and as you can see, you've matched the natural color of the Chev's grip wrap perfectly, so that on the whole, it creates a really good looking piece. It has a really harmonious look with both of them together. So, and he's really good about that. So if you ever need to make sure that your scabbard matches your unmarried sword, Andy is definitely one of the greats at pulling that off. All right, I hope everyone's enjoying themselves. I'll wait 1 second in case anyone has any pressing sword-related questions, but otherwise we will sign off. And this sword, of course, will be featured probably in upcoming sword content. I'll have to figure out some way to compare the Chevalier and the Oakshot in some sort of a head-to-head. We'll see which one can behead pool noodles easiest. And we'll see which one is superior at that. All right, gang. I hope you guys each have a great rest of your Sunday. And as usual, we will be back on the channel for more sword content in the near future. Take care.